Excellent. Well, hey everybody, thanks for coming. Our session today is how to get your students to attend and stay in virtual class meetings. I want to thank Dr. McDonald and the SCAMLE for having me here in this unprecedented times. I currently have a cat scratching on the wall next to me, so who knows what's going to happen. It's kind of the same thing that happens to us when we're in class sessions with our kids virtually. Just a little bit about me in case we haven't met. My name is Julie Marlowe. I'm the instructional coach at Hughes Academy in Greenville, South Carolina. This is my third amazing year at Hughes, and it has been an adventure. Before that, I taught math and science, all three grades in middle school, so I know a little bit about the middle school mind. It kind of changes from minute to minute, but using a little bit of the action research that I've had experience with during this COVID virtual learning experience to try to figure out how can we get our kids to come? How do we get them out of their beds in the morning? How do we get them just to come and believe they're Game Boys? I guess they don't have Game Boys now. They play Minecraft and everything else. I have my own teenagers. We've done 3 AP tests in the past 2 days, which I'm sure we all thought would never happen. We'll never take AP tests in your bedroom, right? And that's kind of how we all feel about all of this. Certainly we'll never do this, and we are doing a whole lot of nevers at this point. A few items of note: you may want a cell phone available. I have a couple of polls. If you don't have one, that's okay. You can also use your a computer. I've got a couple of different props here. I've got one that's going to tell me to slow down in case I'm going too fast, because I do get excited and start talking too fast. So hopefully I'll do better than that today. And ask questions and share. I spend a lot of time I do a lot of Twitter and a lot of research. So I spend a lot of time seeing what's new. Most of the things that I'm presenting today to you are things that have been vetted by my district and vetted by other sources that I really trust. It seems like every day I'm getting a new email or a new instant message of something to try. And a lot of them are really cool, but I'm hesitant to try things that aren't vetted yet. So a lot of these things that you're seeing are very heavily vetted. But if you have something that you've used, I would love for you to share that with us. So don't be afraid to hit us up in the chat box with that. And we will have some question and answer session at the end so that we can chat about that. So the first thing I want to do is start off with a few good things. So it seems like it's been so hard for all of us, and I absolutely miss my building more than anything. And I found that I'm an incredible extrovert, especially at work. That's how I get my energy. But I know there have been some great things. So I would love for you to share with this prompt, share something good that has happened for you during this quarantine adventure. You can do it either two ways. You can use your cell phone, which is probably the easier way. On your cell phone, just go to your message box and your text message and type in 37607 and type in Julie Marlowe 440 in the text, and it'll click up a little thing that says you've joined, and then share something good that's happened to you. If not, you can do it on a computer at pollev.com/Julie Marlowe 440. This is the true test if anybody's with me. So this is something you can do with your students very easily in a virtual meet. This is Poll Everywhere. It integrates seamlessly into Google Classroom. I see a couple coming in, yay! Been able to get some house projects accomplished. I've done a couple of those. Oh, congratulations. Oh, yes, for your son. Oh, wow. So I was right. At least we've had some good things that have happened to us during this time.
Ah, there we go.
Learned I am not an elementary teacher. So that's somebody who obviously has elementary kids in the house. Yeah, so I've had my two kids, one's 21, she's at Clemson, and she came home. And then I have one who's a senior in high school this year. So I had everybody in the house again, which was really funny because at Christmas, I kind of went through a depression thinking I would never have all my kids in the house again. And 3 months later, I was lucky to have them all again. So it looks like some really fun things, some more time to try and explore new ways to teach. The one thing I did see on here that I've actually heard from my teachers as well, the smaller classes, if you see, I can kind of click on this. Smaller classes means deeper connection. Google Meets, more real, can't see this. Kids are developing more internal motivation. Wow, that's exciting. Let's see, congratulations to your son. So I did this for one thing. I wanted to hear some great things from you and interact with you a little bit because I like to present to crowds and kind of feed off the crowd. So this helps me know that you're with me. But this is the same thing you need to do as a teacher. You'll need to be able to get some feedback from your kiddos to know that is anybody actually in there with you. Fortunately, I can see all of your amazing faces, but how many of you guys have seen Google Meets where it's nothing but the icons? And all we see are their little icons. And it's really hard to gauge if anybody, yes, Miss Allison, I see that. It's really hard to tell if anybody's actually with us. We kind of think that sometimes they're not really with us. Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes we actually, they are, like I've seen them flipping around and they could turn it back around with their computer, their game controller. So we had a lot of that going on, but thank you guys for doing that with me. Was that pretty easy for you guys to do? Most of our students can do that too. And it's a great thing just to kind of keep up with them. So March 2020 is the month that felt like a train wreck, came in like a lamb. I know I certainly thought that we were going to be headed back after a couple of weeks of a little vacation. I arrogantly sent my teachers off with a professional development book and said, hey, while we're out, get a little PD in. And that's become a little more than that, right? So what did we do? Our teachers started with review packets, and we took maybe a week off. We asked them to hold Google Meets to pretty much just as check-ins with our kids, kind of give them some normalcy, kind of give us some normalcy. And then as our breaks started, or as the school closure started to expand, our leadership team and the district asked us to go a little bit deeper with them. So we actually put together some new lessons. And with those new lessons came the hurdle of how do we actually teach them this new material. So our leadership team asked our teachers to hold twice a week sessions, e-learning sessions with our students. And we really didn't put a whole lot of parameters on what type of e-learning sessions those are. And we're going to talk about kind of the different things that I have seen. But it came pretty obvious that we needed to put some kind of parameters in place so that our kids knew what was going on and my teachers knew what was going on. So this is a quote from a veteran teacher in my building, and she may be on with us today. This e-learning has been a PD course in itself, requiring me to man up and acquire practice new technology-related skills. And this is a teacher who is a consummate professional. We send teachers to watch her classroom management and watch her pedagogy and watch her content all the time. And I think this virtual learning has put us all kind of on the same level playing field, whether we're an accomplished older teacher or experienced teacher, or whether we're a new teacher. Even my brand new teachers who've just come out of college have had to really had a huge growing curve and learning curve And I've had the advantage of dropping into all of these sessions. So I've got about 60 teachers and they're holding 2 a week, 2 sessions. So I've been able to drop into all of their sessions and see how things are going for them, see what kids are responding to. So I've kind of used that information to help drive this session. So what is actually working for us? So I have one more thing for us. First things first, when we're talking about teenagers, what motivates a middle schooler? So if you will, if you have your cell phone, the easiest thing for you to do is to click on this little QR code. Your phone will zap it and will take you into Mentimeter, and we're going to create like a Wordle, so you can put in just one word if you want to. What motivates a middle schooler? You should be able to put in more than one response. If you don't have your phone, you can go to menti.com, and the code is 516321. And I am going to click over, hopefully. This is the part where I'm not sure everything's going to work, but we're going to try it. Oh, yay, it's working. Sour Patch Kids, I love it. I'm excited that you guys are kind of on the same page of where I have been. All right, so Friends is our biggest. Funny costumes. Is that my drama teacher putting that in there? All right, this is awesome. So this is obviously something you also can use in your class, your virtual class. Mentimeter, you can choose the word cloud like I did. There are all kinds of different ways that you can show your data. Now, what you don't have, which is good for a lot of things, is it's not attached to a certain student. So as long as everything is going well, it's great. If something's not so great, it's harder to figure out what's not great, which does happen too. So it looks like we have, I see food, I see friends, games, hands-on activities, technology, Fortnite. There's a lot of that still going on. Peer interactions, adult praise. That looks awesome. So that's awesome. I want to thank you guys for doing that with me. All right, here's the part where I'm not sure it's going to work. Games, friend, food. All right, so I'm going back here. Let's see if we're in. All right, Yvonne, Allison, are we back up on the screen? Am I back up? Thank you. All right, so here are my 3 F's, and I think you guys hit the nail on the head, just like what my research has told me. And I am a self-professed motivational junkie and marketing junkie. The 3 F's of middle schoolers are fun, friends, and food. And it's really not any different whether we're in school or virtual. We've got to figure out how we can, outside of the classroom, build in fun and friends. I haven't quite figured out how to build in the food. I have one idea, but other than that idea, the food one is a hard one for me. But the fun and the friends, I have tried to figure out how to drop that into our sessions. All right, so the shift to virtual learning has been it's left us all trying to figure out how to motivate our kids. How do we get them to come? And we know that if they are not attending, then they're not learning, right? So the reliance on compliance, my new key phrase, reliance on compliance, is out the window. All of those things that we have used and the pedagogy we have used that we spent years in college and years honing in the classroom are out the window. We can't rely on school norms of them coming in the room and they know they sit down and do their work. We can't rely on our teacher proximity. We've been taught, You know, if a kid is not paying attention, is not engaged, go stand up next to them and kind of tap them on the shoulder. We can't do that right now. I can't rely on my teacher look. It's kind of hard. Nobody knows exactly who I'm looking at. So it's hard to, all those things that we have learned and honed over the years, we've learned, what do we do now? It's a different world than we've ever known before. It's a learning curve. So let's dive into what we think what I have found is working. So the what and the when of these meetings. Define the what and the when for them. So I have found there are several different styles of virtual meetings. Is it a drop-in? Am I going to have an open session for you to come in if you need to ask me a question? Am I going to have a question and answer session that's more of, we're going to review for a quiz and we're going to have some question and answers? Or are we going to have a formal learning session where I expect you to come in at the beginning of that time period, and then we're going to stay the whole time so that you're there, and then you leave at the end. So we kind of need to define for ourselves as well as for our students what kind of session we are doing. And so what we're going to do is for our students, we are going to communicate the time in multiple ways if possible. We want to communicate with their parents if we're able to, and students. Right now, I can't just know that my students are hearing from me, so I'm going to try to communicate with their parents as well. So I'm going to put that in. So whatever your learning management system is, we are very Google heavy. So in my Google Classroom, and this is an example of my classroom. So this classroom, I have a GIF up here that is fireworks exploding. I have a GIF here that is getting ready. And then I'm telling my students when and where my class is. I'm also going to tell them what we're going to be doing in that class. The more I can intrigue them, the more likely it is for me to get them to come. I want to make it easy for them to come. So in my Google Classroom, I have a link up here that they can click on. Depending on my learning management system, I might need to just send them an email link so that they can click on the link. But I've got to make it easy for them, because if this is too hard, they're going to find a bunch of other stuff to do. Okay, I've got to think of those 3 F's, that fun, those friends, and if we can think of something for food, I would love for y'all to help me with that one. We're going to think like an advertiser. Okay, so done a little bit of research on what advertisers are doing with our adolescents to get them to buy. So I want them to buy my class. I want them to buy that it's worth their time. So I am going to appeal to their interests. What are their interests? We had a couple of those. So I saw cell phones and friends. And so all of these things relate back to what's fun for them. I want to use action and movement. I want to use color. I want to use pop culture. And I need to try to figure out what their pop culture is. You know, if I put up a Seinfeld episode, a picture of Seinfeld, they aren't going to understand Seinfeld. So it's hard. You got to try to get into their head. So I do a little bit of research. I'm going to spend some time on the TikTok, spend some time on Instagram, just trying to figure out what is interesting to them so that I can clean that up and use it, because most of it isn't clean enough for us to use. But we can relate it to their world enough that they are interested in it. And remember that they are digital natives, and I like to say that they are actually digital junkies. They have a phone or a device in their hands at all times, unless their parents take them from them. And for the most part, our parents aren't doing that. So use things like these little, let me go back, sorry. If you want to do a TikTok dance, do a TikTok dance. But just kind of know, if you haven't ever been on TikTok, know what is running their world, how their brain works. Their brains work in little tiny snippets. And you can make your own GIFs and your own memes if you want to. And those are fun. Or you can just steal them off Giphy.com. and you can do all kind of fun things with them. And I'm not going to get into the weeds with showing you guys too much. I'm not going to show you how to do that today, but just we're trying to figure out, you know, they're constantly on their phones watching things, and it's never more than about a 10-second time span. That's about what they're watching. So we've got to try to appeal to their interests and the way their brains work. All right. And then now that we know the when, we've communicated the when, we've communicated the what. So what kind of session are we going to be having? So we have told their parents, let me kind of step back a second. When we first started our learning sessions, I would pop into the classes, and I would hear the parents saying things like, well, Johnny told me he doesn't really need to be in this because this is just a question and answer session and he has no questions, so he's not required to be in here. So by communicating with the parents that it's actually important for the kids to be in the session, you're much more likely to get them in those sessions, because our friends, our little friends, are going to tell our parents they don't have to be there. So if you can communicate and get the parents on your side, that's an important tact for these virtual sessions. All right, we talked about communicating. Let's talk about the why. All right, so why do our students want to attend? Just like we do in a brick and mortar class, we want to have a caring environment. We want them to feel like they're coming to a caring environment. We're really lucky right now because we have 3 9 weeks of relationships that we've built. You know, we know our kids, they know us. We can still rely on that bank of norms that we had in the building. If this extends out into August of this coming year, when we have a whole new set of kids, this is going to take a little bit of a different spin. So we'll have to learn how to create those norms and that environment then. But right now, even for the next couple of weeks, we are still trading on the fact that we know these kids. So it's important to do a couple of things. Notice when they attend, okay? So make it obvious to them that if they attend, they're going to get some praise. That was one of the things that I did see in that, in our little Wordle, was praise. They love to get praise. Notice when they don't attend. So is anybody noticing that I'm not coming? If I don't come, is it okay because nobody's noticing? So kind of think of those things as our kids are valuing their time. Is it worth my time to come to this? Send individual notes home. You can do that via email. You can do that via snail mail. Most of our kids don't get mail anymore, real mail. So when they do, it's meaningful. Maybe your admin will give you a couple of stamps. Phone calls if concerned. That's really important even in this virtual environment as it is in our regular environment. I got a thank you from a student who's a junior now, who I taught, who he said, I wanted to tell you thank you for being worried about me when I was in 6th grade because I was not okay and you noticed. And you know, I hadn't thought about that since that time, but our kids, we are a part of their world. We're a huge part of their world. So when you notice that they're there or they're not there, when you make a phone call, those things are very important to them. And it makes a difference in how we're creating the community of the class. And it actually makes a difference to whether they want to come and spend that half an hour with us in our virtual session. And I like to say, start with those good things, share. Just like I did in this session, it's one of those capturing kids' hearts things, which I think is really great. If everybody kind of comes, and that goes back to our F of friends. We share we know what our friends are doing, keeps them connected. Our students are kind of like us. I feel like I'm just in this bubble of my house, and they feel the same way. And their brains are even more wired to learn from each other and play off of each other. So they're in a totally different situation than you and I are, and that they really need to hear from each other and to know that there are some good things going on in the world. So I like to say, share those good things in your sessions so our students know that there are still good things going on. And make sure you ask them questions during class to let it know that that it matters to you, that they are still there. We need to let them know that we still care about them. All right, some ideas to get them to attend. I've got a lot of chat box here. There we go. All right, some ideas to get them to attend. So I've got some silly stuff here. We're going to be instantly cooler. I'm going to put on my shades, and instantly we are much more fun. It's so much more fun. But I have a department head who holds all of her meetings in some kind of silly style. So whether it's silly hat day or it's silly sunglass day, I love to attend her meetings. They're more fun than any other meetings in the building. So think of us kind of a show and tell spirit week mashup. Hat day, stuffed animal day, like animal parade, or if you don't have an animal, you can have a stuffed animal parade. Silly sock day, where they can all stuff their feet in the cameras. Sport team day, sunglass day, snack day. Okay, this is where the food comes in, snack day. So we can all bring our Cheetos bag or whatever your favorite snack is and sit and eat your snack while we're in class. So, I mean, obviously they can do that anyway, but if you make something fun out of it, that's the only way I can get food, that I can figure out how to get food into our learning sessions besides sending pizzas. But the fun is that everybody attends class with the theme of the day, including the teacher, and it just makes that session more fun to go to than anybody else's. And we want to make our sessions the most fun. Next or not next. All right. How about some competition? Friends, competition, and fun. One of my math teachers has an astonishing rate of attendance in her classes right now. She has probably about 95% of her kids at any given time are in their class sessions or in her class sessions. And she does it by creating competitions. So for the week, she may have, for third period, boys versus girls. So if more boys come, and she tallies up who comes, the boys get the points for the week. They win the prize. Or you can have for who answers the most questions. So there are different ways you can do that. You know your kids' culture, so you know what will work for them. And you can also do inter-class competitions. So if I have, my third period, more students come than my fourth period for the week. We're going to have a competition, and I kind of would keep a leaderboard in my Google Classrooms so that they can see how that's progressing through the week. So again, we're just trying to A, let them know that it's important that they come, and B, let them know that we're tracking and make it fun, and hopefully they'll want to come. I mean, we want them to come for the learning, but we all know we've got to give them some other reasons to come. All right. Teamwork makes the dream work. Kids feed off each other and feed off the fun. So what I want them to do is I want for Tanya to call Becky and say, I need you to come to this class because we're losing the competition for the week. I want them to come, and then I want them to have their friends come to their class too. So let's get our friends in on the making it a competition and making it worth their while. All right, so we're there. I got them in, I've advertised my class, I've pulled out all the bells and whistles. So now what? So I like to show them an agenda for the day, and I made this agenda. I'm going to share this PowerPoint or the slides through a bit.ly, so you can use this agenda. I've made this. It's just a slide. Just put today's agenda. So what are we going to do? We can share. We're going to have our lesson. We're going to do a quick game, and then we're going to wrap it up. I've got my learning target here, so we know what we're supposed to be learning. And then I have a don't forget session. So I'm advertising my next meeting here, as well as what is due for me. And so we've spent a lot of time flipping our lessons and teaching asynchronously, doing screencastifys, so that the students are able to listen to the lesson and then come into our learning virtual time and kind of spend more time talking to each other than actually just copying notes or anything. So that slide is something you can use. I made it through Google Slides, so you're welcome to use that. And then chunk your lesson into sections just like you do in the classroom. And I've come up with a pretty fair way of doing this, breaking it into 3 sections. The vast majority of our students cannot sit with us for more than 30 minutes. So about 30 minutes is all you're going to get with them. So I like to break this up into 3 segments, just like we do when we're sitting in any class period. We're going to break and chunk things. So our come together, our share time, maybe that's when our parade of animal time is. Maybe that's when we sit and look at each other's silly hats, and we let our kids talk to each other and say, oh, I love your Bulls hat, or whatever. Let them have some time to talk to each other, because they're missing that. And you can actually, while you're listening to that, kind of listen how everybody's doing as well. And then you're going to have your lesson or your game. So your lesson can be your slideshow. You can then play your game if you want to, and I'm going to talk about games in a minute. But you want that to kind of be your biggest chunk, and it's not going to be able to be very long. So you got your come together, your share, so about 5 minutes. You're going to wrap up for about 5 minutes. And so your lesson is probably going to be, your lesson and game are about 20 minutes at the most. That's about all the time they have to share with you at any given time. And if we can get 30 minutes out of them, I'm pretty happy right now. So there is that again. All right, so I've got them. I've got my lesson planned. Now, how do I get them to stay? Have you all seen this? They get in, they look at everybody's pictures. Hey, how you doing? And then they pop out. And you're like, wait, okay, come back. So how do we keep them coming? I mean, how do we keep them to stay? I'd stay for the whole presentation. So we go back to those points. You get points if you stay, if you're there at the beginning, and if you're there at the end. And the points are going back to, I'm not talking about points on an assignment. I'm talking about points in kind of my virtual game. If you are presenting material via slides like I am today, use interesting slides. Like this is from slidesgo.com, and they have tons of free slideshows. They're free to use. You're able to, as long as you keep the thank you attribute slide, which you'll see at the end of this. But keep your slides fresh, and use as many weird different things as you can, so that they keep coming back just to see what you're doing. You want to use movement and animations like I have. Add GIFs and memes. You can make your own. And this is one of my favorite ones. This is from my gaming. I have a gamer in my house. Use Easter eggs or hide Easter eggs. So in the gaming world, games often have Easter eggs hidden. Sometimes the developers tell them that there are Easter eggs. Sometimes the developers don't tell their buyers that there are Easter eggs, and then you just find them by luck, or by spending a lot of time on the game and trying to find them. So I've hidden some Easter eggs in this show. Anybody see? There's an Easter egg. So Easter egg is something, let me explain what that is, obviously. In gaming, if you are not a gamer, it is an action, or it's like something you find, and then another game will pop up, or a video pops up, or an event happens. So it'll keep people in those games forever. And I've put in some of our in this, some little Easter eggs. So there's an Easter egg on this screen. Yvonne, do you see my Easter egg? It's a fish, yeah. All right, so my Easter egg is Sammy. He's my fish. He's been in a couple of other slides. So one thing you can do is tell your students when you start that I've got a couple of things hidden in these slides, and by the end of the show, or the end of this presentation, I'm gonna ask you guys to tell me what you saw. You can make a game out of it. But I have Sam hidden a couple of other places, but that just keeps your kids interested in looking at your presentation and not at the game behind them. All right, so now we've gotten them there. We know why we're there. We're working hard to keep them there. Let's make it interactive. So just like we did earlier with this poll everywhere that integrates seamlessly, Mentimeter is very easy. I also use Socrative for pulse checks, and I just got an upgrade from Socrative that they've upped their game too. So you can add some different things to make it more fun for the kids. But you can do different. The word art was fun. You can do different polls so that you've got to see what they're doing. Obviously, Google Forms you can use. I like the ones that are interactive, like the ones that we used, so that kids can see it on their screens. And then if we're talking about the actual lesson, Pear Deck is great. Pear Deck, if you haven't used it, it also integrates into Google Slides, and you can see what kids are writing on their screen with their fingers on their mouse pad, or they can circle things and draw lines through things, and you're able to see that live, real time, while you're presenting. Jamboard is also great, and it's one that is vetted and easy to use. There are a bunch of other whiteboard apps out there that have been coming out. I haven't found anyone that's vetted yet that's usable, but I'm sure they're going to be coming out, and we're going to be able to use those. And don't forget old, just holding up their work in front of the camera. I also like to remind, and some of my teachers didn't know, that our students are actually able to share their screens from their computer, so you can see what they're doing on their computer. So don't be afraid to say, y'all share your screen. You can share your screen and see how they're working. All right, gamify your session. So these are like true games that you can play with your kids while you're teaching remotely. You can play Kahoot. I don't love Kahoot in real life, in real class, because I think we spend a whole lot more time yelling than we do actually learning. But Kahoot, virtually, I have seen it in so many sessions, and it's working really well to keep the kids engaged. Quizlet Live is it's more of a quiz. Quizalize has a couple of different interesting things, because you can actually, once they take the quiz, you can do that live, and then it will assign some more work for them based on how well they did on those questions. So it has a little bit of an adaptive feature to it. And then GimKit is one of my favorite new ones, because it has some added competition, so students can freeze each other. So we've got that friends component in it of them actually hanging out with us and staying. So those are a couple of them. Like I said, there are just tons and tons of new ones coming out virtually every week. These are ones that work, and they're not too overwhelming for your kids. Most of them have actually used it. It's kind of hard to teach something remotely, how to use something. So that's one of those that we want to be careful that we're using stuff that's in their world or in their frame of reference and not too far out, but we're also trying to do something new and entertaining all the time. So it's kind of a catch-22. How do I do something fun and new, but not something so new that nobody can do it? All right, and then we want to reward their effort. So just like in the classroom, they like to be rewarded. They like to be rewarded verbally. We can do that pretty easily over the internet. And we can also maybe send them some things. I can't tell you how ridiculously excited I was. I ordered a bunch of stickers off Amazon this week, and our girls and boys love them. What you can do is snail mail some stickers and for prizes. And it's ridiculous how excited they get about that. It's just fun. You can use a random name picker. One of my favorites is the wheel of names. As you use it, or you click their names in. So I would use this for when they actually attend class, if they're stayed in through the full time of class. If they answered questions correctly, you can type their names in. You spin it, and it's kind of like the Wheel of Fortune, and it picks their name. So you can do something fun, just like they're the student of the week, or you can actually send them some little prizes. Just a little note of, hey, thanks, you were the winner, is fun for them too. I did make this for us. This is a student of the week slide that you're welcome to use. You can use this either on your slideshow. You can put it on your Google Classroom, or if you wanted to, you could actually print it and mail it to them too. Just something fun, just a little bit of recognition. That was one of the things I saw in our first Wordle, was the recognition, that students really like to see recognition. So you're welcome to use that. I made that just for us, so it has no copyrights. It's for us. All right, and then you want to wrap it up, just like in a regular class session. You had your starter, you had your middle, which was your lesson, and now you're going to wrap it up use those last few minutes, depending on how you scheduled your class. You could say that the end of class is when, or the end of our virtual session is when we're going to show our pets, or when we're going to show our hats, so that you've got the meat at the first and then the fun at the end. You can do that either way. I say switch it up and keep it fresh, because they've got to constantly be entertained and changed. Praise their efforts, thank them for coming. Remind them of whatever your assignment is. You know, if you have your screencast or your Flipgrid is due, your Flipgrid assignment is due to me tomorrow, so that I can look at it. And then promote your next session, just like every good advertiser promotes their next session. I'll see you Tuesday, same time, same place. And for our kids, it's really best if you can schedule your sessions at the same time every week. So we required that of our teachers. So they all, you know, if your third period is going to be at 10 o'clock on Tuesday and 10 o'clock on Thursday. That's easiest for our parents and our students. Try to be very consistent with that. It helps the parents, especially if they have more than one kid they're trying to help virtually learn. And you know, we'll have to see how this work runs into next year. We're kind of coming on the tail end of this for this year, but we may be practicing for things to come. We're just still working on that. So remember to promote your next session together. And then what I want to say is give yourself grace. And we've been saying give grace to students a whole lot. And we have been giving a whole lot. But I also want to say to you, give yourself grace. We are all learning. And I know that there are several of you on right now who have kids and things running on. I had a cat who was just, you know, being crazy. You know, if your kids are cranky and you just can't pull it off, or your washing machine blows up and you've got water everywhere, give yourself grace. Communicate with your students or your admin and let them know that you've got a problem. So just, you know, we are all learning, and if you haven't heard it enough yet, you are rocking this. I can't even imagine. This is one of those, this will never happen. So this will never happen, but it happened. And within about 2 days, we pulled off a miracle. So I want you to know that that you are, no matter what you're doing, it's amazing. And I've seen a lot of this too. I have some sweet teachers who have only maybe one kid shows up. And what I want you to know is, even if one kid shows up, you were needed by that one kid. And this is one of my very favorite sayings, and I have to repeat this thing to myself sometimes when I feel like I'm not making enough of a difference. An old man was walking along the beach at sunrise, and he came upon a young man sifting through the debris left by night's tide. Every now and then he'd pick up the starfish and fling it back into the sea. The old man asked him the purpose of his efforts. "The tide has washed the starfish onto the beach, and they will die unless I throw them back." The old man looked around the miles of beach. "There are more starfish than you can ever save. Surely you cannot expect to make a difference." The young man bent to pick up another starfish, and he sent the starfish sailing back into the water. And he said to the old man, "I can make a difference to this one." And so remember, if just one comes to your class that day, you were the difference for that kid that day. And I want to thank Dr. McDonald and SCAMLE for having me here today. And thank you guys for spending your time with me. I know that most of you have already spent a full day teaching or doing something else, educating children and working with our teachers. So I do not take it lightly that you spent your time with me this afternoon, and I appreciate it very much. So let's get to some questions. I see some things popping up here.
Thank you very much, Julie. Julie, I will tell the folks who are joining us, if you want to ask a question, please just feel free to ask them in the chat box. Julie's going to take some questions from you now.
And here's the bit.ly, by the way, in case if you want to download the slides, you're welcome to. All right. Let's see here. The biggest struggle is controlling larger groups. Well, I'm going to say you're lucky if you have a larger group. For the most part, we're getting the smaller groups. So I would say that's a blessing, trying to I think probably when you're controlling the larger groups, the best thing you can do is have everybody mute their microphones for a little bit, and then you know, raise their hand. Would you say, Forrest, is that the problem? Is that they're loud? Yes. Yeah. So that kind of goes back to your norms of everybody mutes. And I've seen a lot of things, and they turn off their cameras and leave. Yeah, and I had a teacher who really wanted them to require them to have their cameras on, and I'm not real comfortable with that either. So there's no perfect. We're learning. So that's one of the reasons with the to turn their cameras off and leaving, so that if I know I ask them questions, they have to respond to me, or do a poll so that I know that they're actually there, and they get points when they're still there at the end. That's kind of one of my thoughts of having a prize at the end, or just a competition. All right, let's see here. Let me go up to the very top here. I got that. And guys, I did not remind you, but we have more webinars this week. And we also are going to end with our final with Jack Berkmeyer on the 26th. So I wanted everyone, we have several really good ones. I know we have one Thursday, and I think it is that our special ed one? Helping our special ed students?
Yes, we have, Julie, we have several great webinars coming up from SCAMLE over the next several weeks. We have a great special ed session coming up on Thursday, and then another follow-up special ed about what will we do next year will be coming up as well. So if you've not had a chance to check out these great webinars on our website, please go to scamle.org, and there is a link to our calendar, and it will take you straight to the events where you can register for all of these. All of these webinars have been provided free of charge as part of our May Madness, and really an opportunity to support our teachers because we recognize so much additional help and support is needed. All of these will be free and will be added in video format to our SCAMLE YouTube channel the day after they are presented. Julie, I'm seeing another question for you. Somebody's asking about the virtual candy. How do you do virtual candy? Tell us about that.
I wish the virtual candy would be great. Now, what you can do is give out virtual badges. There are a couple different places where you can make badges and send them virtual badges through their email. So that's about the best that I can figure out for how to send virtual candy. We can do stickers.
Someone else is asking about certificates. Do you have some ideas of how you can reward kids for the work they're doing each week by sending out maybe a virtual certificate or a virtual high fives I see? So there's lots of things there.
All right, so you can send out, I did make that easy certificate for you, and you can send that certificate out to your students and you can change it. But that's how you can send it out through email. So I did make that for us so we can send those out virtually. Dr. McDonald, you're better at looking for these questions than I am. ADHD is real in the virtual world too. I know, I'm suffering from it. I didn't suffer from ADHD in the regular world, but in virtual world, I'm suffering from it. Virtual stickers. Who does virtual stickers and virtual candy? How do you? Mary Matthew, Greenville. Explain that to me. Are you still here?
Yeah, we just say that's awesome, that's great. What kind of candy do you want? And they've gotten used to it, so now they'll shout out their favorite kind of candy, and we'll stick our fist into the camera and hand it to them, and they'll simulate putting it in their mouth. I teach 6th graders, so they think it's hilarious.
I love that.
The same with the virtual stickers. We stick our thumb up to the camera and simulate putting the sticker on their virtual chart. So
that's pretty amazing. I love that.
That's wonderful.
I
Any
know.
other questions that the attendees may have for Julie? I'm sure she's able to answer them, or we have a few minutes left in our webinar this afternoon. See some great comments. Again, these will be available on our SCAMLE website, as well as links to register for several other great sessions that are coming up. And Julie mentioned it already, Jack Burkmeyer. Everybody loves Jack Burkmeyer. Jack will be doing a fantastic session to close out the month of May. So we look forward to him and hope you will go and register for the webinar and be a part of this. Julie, we want to thank you again from all of the folks at SCAMLE for your presentation this afternoon, and certainly appreciate everyone attending. Again, if you have any feedback or suggestions on our webinars, we're going to be sending you a survey this evening or tomorrow so that you can give us feedback on future sessions that you may want to be a part of, or things that you think that we could do to make your membership more valuable. Once again, Julie, thank you so much for this incredible information. Lots of great tools that I didn't even know how to use. So I'm looking forward to adding some of these to some of the things I do. And certainly we appreciate all of your hard work, and we appreciate all the hard work of educators all over our state who are working to provide excellent educational opportunities for our students in spite of us not having them inside our buildings. So thank you again, and we want to wish everyone a terrific afternoon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.